like there's still no industry consensus on investing in crypto. And the reason for that is it still remains quite risky. We still tend to classify it as speculative, which is in some ways closer to gambling than investing, for example, in a productive asset like a stock. Whereas, envision investing in a stock, which is a share of ownership in a company where there is an entire team of people who are working toward one goal, and that is profitability, which is what drives the price higher. Whereas with crypto, really the only thing that is driving the price of any crypto, Bitcoin or any other crypto, is whether or not people want it. And so in order to predict into the future whether it's going to be a good investment or not requires knowing 10 or 20 years into the future whether people want Bitcoin or not.
Yeah, and you've seen, if you've been watching the markets and watching Bitcoin recently, some extreme volatility. Even just in the last couple of months, it was well over 100, fell back into the 80s. It's really been all over the place. I do own a little bit of it, but like less than 1% of my portfolio. Hey everyone, welcome to HerMoney. I'm Jean Chatzky with a special mailbag episode today with the incredible Amanda Holden, investing expert and author of How to Be a Rich Old Lady. If you haven't listened to our Wednesday episode with Amanda, go cue that up next. Amanda is a financial educator, formerly of the world of finance, who helped tens of thousands of women learn how to make smart money moves. And together she is here to answer your real life investing questions. We've got a listener who just opened a Roth IRA, but isn't sure how to exactly invest the money. Another wondering if she's missing the boat by not buying crypto. And finally, a question from someone who's been laid off and is wondering what to do with the $500,000 in her 401k. Amanda, welcome back.
Thank you for having me, Jean.
Thank you for being here. You ready to answer some questions?
Let's do it.
All right. So first up, we've got a question from an anonymous listener. She's just started investing. Good for you. By the way, she writes, I recently opened a Roth IRA at Fidelity. I'm contributing weekly, but I'm totally lost on how to actually invest that money. I've seen videos that mention FXAIX, but I don't understand the difference between trade and buy, and I'm nervous to touch anything. Honestly, I just want to set it and forget it, but I don't know where to begin. Where can I find beginner-friendly tips, videos, and guides to help me confidently invest within my Roth IRA? What are your thoughts on robo-advisors?
That's like 4 or 5 questions rolled into one big question, which is just how do I invest? And good for you for getting started. And if you're feeling confused, no wonder you're feeling confused. It is because that it's not really a question that can be answered in 60 seconds, but I will try my best. And so let's just start with the logistical piece, actually the trade and the buy. What does that mean? So trade is an umbrella term that we just use to describe making a transaction. And I do think a little bit of context helps. So back in the day, if you wanted to buy a stock, you had to use a stockbroker, like an actual guy, and he would need to match you with the seller. And so he would broker this deal, and it was called a trade. You swapped money for shares of ownership, which is a stock. And nowadays, we do this all online with a brokerage bank like Fidelity. But because the trades are all done automatically, we lose sight of the fact that what they are doing is matching buyers and sellers. And so the button that you are looking for, it may say trade, it may say transact or buy or sell, but ultimately you are placing a trade to buy an investment. And so go down the path of that buy button and you'll get to where you need to go, but trade is also a good place to start. And just a hot tip, you can also always call Fidelity and ask a rep there to walk you through your first trade. Don't have them place the trade because they will charge you $25, but they can walk you through the steps of buying your first investment. Okay, So then to the questions about the investments themselves. So FXAIX is an S&P 500 index fund, which is a really great start. It's a great way to get invested in the US stock market, but ultimately you may at some point want a little bit more diversification. And you can listen to our last episode to learn a little bit more about what that might look like, but adding in maybe international stocks or bonds, again, using index funds.
What's your feeling about life cycle funds, as Fidelity calls them, or target date funds? These funds that cover all your bases, one and done. They cost a little bit more, but they make sure that you are appropriately diversified based on the age that you estimate you might retire.
I love them if they are target date funds that hold index funds. Just as not all funds are created equal, some are higher cost, some are actively managed. Some funds are lower cost, passive index, not actively managed. And so just as you can buy index funds, you can buy a target date fund that bundles together a couple of different index funds. So your US stock market index fund, your international stock market index fund, and either one or two bond market index funds. And so Fidelity and Charles Schwab offer both versions. They offer a version that is index and lower cost, and they offer a higher cost version. I would look for that word index. And then, yes, I love it as a one-stop shop. And that was going to be my next suggestion, a great option for this investor who's just getting started.
Next up, we've got a question from Stacy. She's hearing conflicting advice about crypto and AI investing. We talked about AI in our last conversation, Stacy, so you're going to want to listen to that as well. But she writes, I'm really interested in investing in AI, but I keep hearing that I'm making a huge mistake by not including crypto or Bitcoin in my portfolio too. Love to hear your take. Do you think crypto should be part of a long-term investment strategy, or is it okay to sit this one out?
So I'll just quickly touch on the AI piece first. If you are investing in any sort of US stock market index fund, you are already loaded to the gills with AI exposure. And so the really interesting question right now is whether it's too much exposure. And so, yes, you probably have some AI if you are doing the normal boring things of investing in the stock market via index funds. As for crypto, and so I try not to, as an educator, make personal recommendations, but instead share what is considered to be industry consensus. And I would say that there's still no industry consensus on investing in crypto. And the reason for that is it still remains quite risky. The way I describe it in the book is like you have to think of crypto as that sparkly clutch that you take out on a Friday night. Like you have to be okay with accidentally leaving it in a taxi. You cannot invest more than you could reasonably lose. And because of it, because of this risk, we still tend to classify it as speculative, which is in some ways closer to gambling than investing, for example, in a productive asset like a stock. Whereas, envision investing in a stock, which is a share of ownership in a company where there is an entire team of people who are working toward one goal, and that is profitability, which is what drives the price higher. Whereas with crypto, really the only thing that is driving the price of any crypto, Bitcoin or any other crypto, is whether or not people want it. And so in order to predict into the future whether it's going to be a good investment or not requires knowing 10 or 20 years into the future whether people want Bitcoin or not, which is a really difficult thing to do. There are so many factors that will lead to whether we're not using crypto, we are using crypto, and whether it's Bitcoin or something else.
Yeah, and you've seen, if you've been watching the markets and watching Bitcoin recently, some extreme volatility. Even just in the last couple of months, it was well over 100, fell back into the 80s. It's really been all over the place. I do own a little bit of it, but like less than 1% of my portfolio. I didn't want to be out of it I did maybe a little bit of FOMO. I didn't want to be out of it, but it's money that I know that I could lose and not lose any sleep at all. And I agree with Amanda that that is the right way to go. Finally, a question from Leslie. She is navigating a big transition. I was recently laid off after 12 years with the same company. I'm sorry to hear that, Leslie. It's happening a lot these days. I have about $500,000 saved in my workplace 401k, and while I've had no issues, I'm not sure if I should leave the account where it is or roll it into an IRA. I'm 15 years from retirement, and my goal is to grow that balance to at least $1 million. What's the best move here? What happens if I find a new job with a new 401k this year? Should I consolidate or keep things separate? Great question. There are so many orphan 401ks sitting out there. Most of them, Leslie, you should know, have far less money than yours.
Yeah, just graveyards of old 401ks. Leslie, I'm also so sorry to hear that you got laid off. But what is incredible is that it sounds like you use that time to really build yourself this amazing pot of money and really a life because of it. You converted income into wealth, which that's the whole trick. That's the thing. In terms of the accounts themselves, it does not really matter whether the money is in an IRA or a 401k because these are just bank accounts and they happen to have the same taxation. And so from an account standpoint, there isn't really a big difference. Now, whenever I hear a question like this, I think that what the person is getting at is the question of compounding returns. I get it all the time from my students, right? If I have 500K over here in one account, and then let's say 500K over here in this other account, will the effects of compounding be muted? And the answer is no. The dollar is the unit of compounding, and as long as it is invested, the effect will be the same whether it sits in an account with other dollars or not. And so compounding your way to 1 million, it will not move faster or slower because the money is split into two accounts. So instead, the real question here of whether to roll over or not to roll over is whether you like your investing strategy currently. So we get really caught up in the questions of taxation, right? Understandably, retirement accounts are so complicated, but they are just one cursed limb of the patchwork doll that is the US tax code. And so that we miss what is significantly more important, and that is how the money is invested within the account. And so let's talk through our options. If you like the way the money is invested in your 401k, your old 401k right now, right, including the funds used to invest in the stock and bond markets, then it's okay for it to chill for now until you figure out your next move. If you don't like the way that the money is invested, for example, let's say you are invested using high cost funds, which we know will erode your performance over time, then you may want to consider rolling it over to an IRA where you have total control over the investment strategy. And then, of course, the third option is rolling it over into your new future 401k, which is also compelling, even just from a pure consolidation standpoint. But I would only roll money into my new 401k if I liked the investment options that I had available to me. If I only had high cost, actively managed funds to invest in, I would not apply extra money to those funds.
100%. And the other thing to just keep an eye on are the fees on that 401k. Aside from the cost of the investments themselves, sometimes when you leave a company, you will notice that your fees go up. And if that happens to you, then it's time to move the money probably just into a rollover IRA. Personally, I like being able to see things on one screen when I sign in. And that means a single brokerage firm. Having multiple accounts in multiple places makes the whole asset allocation exercise a little more complicated. But it sounds like we're only working with a universe of two here, potentially. And I think that's something that you should be able to handle. Amanda, you're terrific. You explain things very clearly, and it's a fun hang. So thank you so much for being back with us today.
I appreciate you so much.
You as well. We'll see you guys soon.